Hi guys!
Hello! Hi!
My name is Andrea and I'm the Fearless Love Coach. I show strong, sassy, successful women how to attract and keep their Mr. Right. So if you can see, this young man next to me is my man's James.
This is my woman's, Andrea.
And we wanted to pop on today to talk about how to keep relationships alive. That's one of my most frequently asked questions, especially from those of you in long-term relationships and also from those of you who are single. And of course, you want to know how to attract and keep your partnership. So how do you keep that love alive for the long term? That's why we're going to talk to you about the 5 love languages. So if you don't know this already, this is a book by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages.
Obviously.
That both James and I have read. And it's made a big difference.
It's made a big difference in my life. Huge. Absolutely huge.
And it's a big difference to how we relate to each other, how we connect with each other. And so before we get started about how it's helped us and how it can help you, we want to tell you actually what the 5 love languages are. If you haven't read the book already, but go out and get this book. I'm sure you will once you've watched the whole of this video. So the 5 love languages are gifts, acts of service, touch,
like that. Touch is important.
Yeah, quality.
Particularly to me.
And me. Quality time.
Quality time.
And words of affirmation. Okay. So with me and James, we've already gone through the love languages as we've just said, and our top love language that we share is touch.
It is.
It is touch. And so it makes it as you can see me touching right now, it makes it...
I'm nervous on camera, so touch makes me feel loved, makes me feel comfortable, so I'm getting some touch in there.
Yeah, so we're keeping the camera still.
Okay. I'm excited.
It's excited. That's good, isn't it? It's excited. And so the 5 love languages, the basic premises of it is that we love and receive love in different ways. So let's say for example, if James's value, what he really liked were acts of service, and mine was touch. In that way, we would be incompatible in some degree. So if I wasn't doing any acts of service for James, James wouldn't feel loved. If he didn't value touch, or he wasn't, very attentive towards me, I wouldn't feel loved. So even though there's love there, there's caring there, there's kindness there, if we don't show each other our love language of choice, we won't feel loved. And so for those of you who might be in committed relationships right now, maybe you're experiencing not feeling loved. It might not be because your partner doesn't love you. It could simply be that you have different love languages.
Absolutely.
So touch is our number 1 love language that we share with each other. So we are naturally very touchy-feely, and it feels great.
It does.
It does feel great. But our second love language, we differ. So what's your second love language?
Mine's words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Yeah. So what does that mean?
That means getting support verbally, hearing my partner say, you know what, you really like me. I need that. I need that little lift every once in a while. A little support on little things. You can do that. You're good at that. That type of thing just lifts me up. I don't know. It just makes me smile, makes me feel important.
Yeah. So I tell him how I feel about him. And if he's maybe, say, having a bad day, for example, I'll know that I'll need to either touch him to make him feel good.
Probably.
And give him some words of support.
Yes. Sometimes I want both. Sometimes just touching is good enough.
Yeah. So because I know that's what, I would do it naturally anyway, but that's what I know I absolutely need to do for him to feel loved. So outside of touch, my second most important love language is quality time. So whilst I love words of affirmation, I really like good communication. If someone doesn't want to spend quality time with me, let's say for example, someone could be talking to me on the phone and having that level of contact through communication, if I don't physically see them, if I'm not spending time with them and quality time with them, I personally won't feel loved. So this is why we're talking about love languages, because love languages are really, really important. And if you're single right now, I really stress to you, go and get the book. because you want to choose the right partner. Remember, I'm about attracting the right person for you, and rather than, down the line, if you get together with someone and be unhappy, worse if you get married and have children and end up getting divorced, rather than that happening. He's laughing.
Yes, I wish I had the love language book a long time ago.
Yeah.
Would have been made life a lot easier.
Rather than that happen, what my preference has always be, choose wisely from the beginning. Arm yourself with information, and then you can make the right choices.
Do the upfront work.
Yeah, do the upfront work. So what I'm going to ask James, and I want you to really listen to this, because maybe you're going through this if you're in a relationship, certainly if you're in a long-term relationship, that when you don't feel you're getting your emotional needs met, when you're not receiving your language, how do you perceive your partner? What do you think about them? So James, I want you to tell us and share with us how you perceived partners from the past who you didn't feel met your love language.
The way I looked at it at the time, and the way I think I'm past it now, but I really thought of them as being a greedy, selfish person. Here I am giving, and they're not giving back. So when I looked at them, I just saw a person who was unwilling to care, unwilling to put themselves out there, and that to me is a selfish person. So that really affected the way I thought about them, and it led to some pretty not so good behavior on both our parts, a lot of arguments, because when you see somebody as greedy, it's hard to appreciate them, even when things are good. So yeah, that pretty much describes, I think the best word is greedy.
Okay, so are you experiencing that right now? Or maybe if you're single, if you look back to your past relationships, in what way did you see your partner as being selfish or greedy, like James has said, or any other words, and when you look back, what resentments have built up? Now, I'm not saying that he or she wasn't being selfish, I'm not saying that. And what we've got to look at, when you don't get your emotional needs met, when you're not receiving your love language, we will perceive your partner in a certain way, which is going to be highly critical and highly judgmental. And so if you're in that situation right now, if you're in a long-term relationship, if you're married, you might be actually thinking about divorcing your partner. And so I really want you to think about this, because if you can avoid getting divorced, especially if you've got children, then that would be my preference for you, of course. So he or she may not be doing the things that you want, but it may not be because they don't love you, it's simply because they don't know. And if you're perceiving them in a way that's highly critical, resentments build up, you feel anger, then imagine what comes from that. Like James just said, inevitably, depending how you deal with stress and frustration and resentment, some of you may shut down emotionally, you may begin to distance yourself, cut yourself off, maybe you start to nag, maybe you start to shout, maybe you start to argue, maybe you start to pick holes at them because of how you're perceiving them. So, I can't stress this enough, that when you understand these love languages and when you see how important they are, it can actually make or break your relationship.
Absolutely. People say love's random, and to some degree it is random, but if you read this book, you'll see that there's five realms in which that randomness occurs, and I think we already talked about that. But that's not a natural thing. It's not an intuitive thing. At least it was not for me personally. So to me, I'm giving love in a way I want to receive love, and that's not coming back to me in my past relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's important, because if you don't understand that, you don't know how to give your partner what they're looking for. They don't know how to give that back to you. Yeah. And it leads to problems.
Yeah, big time.
They start small, and then they work themselves up. So initially, you just don't really feel all that loved, and then all of a sudden, because you're giving what your love language is to your partner, and you're not starting to receive that back, so you try harder, and at some point you just, I don't feel it. I don't feel the love.
And so let's talk about what happens when it is there. So as we've already shared, we share the number one love language, which is touch. And one of mine is quality time, and yours is word of affirmation. So that's where we're slightly different in the second love language. So tell people what it's like for you to experience when it actually is there in comparison to what it was before.
Can I show them?
You can show them.
Yeah, can I show them again?
So I'm getting loved up here, which is always a good thing.
This is, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe
Yeah.
somebody else more eloquent than I am can, but you just feel it, you know? You feel it, you physically feel it, you feel it in your stomach, you feel it in your heart, you feel it when you open your mouth and take in a deep breath of air. Yeah, she loves me. She loves me. She's holding me, she's touching me, she gives me exactly what I need. And so that's wonderful. What are we here for if not that? That's what I'm looking for, at least. That's what I need. And so it's great.
How do you perceive, maybe not even necessarily me, but someone who does that for you? Because you obviously you feel loved. What is it like? What is it like when you look at them or when you look at me?
It makes you look at them in a way that makes you smile, makes you think, all right, this person actually, they care about me, they love me, and that makes me comfortable, it makes me soft, it makes me open up, it makes me want to communicate in other ways, it makes me want to be attentive to your needs, the other person's needs. So it's just something that you really gotta have.
Yeah. So what it can do is create, if you're losing that connection, or maybe even thought the connection wasn't even there, it can create the connection, it can keep that bond together. And if you'll generate a good feeling, because what James is talking about is about having a good feeling. Now, we're driven by our emotions, we're driven by good feelings. So if he's feeling good and that feeling good is connected with me, what do you think is going to happen? He's going to want to keep on connecting with me, and vice versa. So remember what I said earlier, it's about attracting and keeping Mr. Right. So if you're getting into situations or relationships where men keep on leaving you, it might suggest, obviously I don't know you personally, it might suggest that you're not talking his love language. We move towards what makes us feel good and move away from what makes us feel bad, right? This is a natural human response. We can't fight it, we can't deny it, we can't pretend it's not there, it's what's happening. So if you're connecting with guys and they keep on like leaving you, saying they're going to call, not call, try and look at what it is that you think you might be doing, and it could be you're not speaking their love language, and maybe you don't know what your love language is, because again, like I said, it's not for those who are just in relationships, it's also for those who are single, so you can communicate to the men you want to connect with what actually is important to you, and then they can see, am I able to give that to her? Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but it makes it a whole lot easier.
We're not that smart. We're guys.
He said that, not me.
Okay, I'm blind, so I don't get it half the time. So yeah, a little guidance is what we're all looking for, right? Show us the answer, and we'll figure out how to get there. But if we don't know, because we don't know, like I said earlier, it's not intuitive. Who would have thought that there's 5 love languages out there, 5 ways to make her feel special? And I wouldn't have. I never did for 20-something years. So yeah, figure out what it is so you can convey it to your potential partner. And if they can give it to you, great. If they can't, move on.
Well, that's easily said than done.
Yeah, I'm talking initially, you know, when you're maybe doing your online dating or something like that. You know, I think it's that important for me personally, at least. Yeah,
it's very important. Like I said, it can make or break your relationship. So look at the stage of life you are right now. Look at what you want to create. As a woman, and of course I coach women and only women, I want you to take control of your love life. I want you to feel empowered. You do have a lot of power, and it's not about controlling anyone or trying to manipulate anyone. It's about understanding yourself, your own emotional needs, and also understanding him, his psychology, and his emotional needs. So hopefully I've convinced you to go out, get this book, The 5 Love Languages. It's a really simple, easy read. Get it on audio if you don't want to read it, but I strongly suggest that you do. It can be life-changing. It can be life-changing. So I want to thank James. Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank you all for listening, and I'll catch up with you again soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.